Yeah, so Jail Group really, what we are a central hub based in the UAE, based in Dubai. We service the MENA region from the corrugated packaging sector primarily. Print and packaging is our bread and butter, and we've got an unbelievable amount of partners, global OEMs that we associate with, that we plan projects with, that we serve to the print and packaging industry. And that can go anything from large-scale flexo-folded gluers, print machines, rotary die cuts, anything within the packaging sector, software, ERP solutions for industry across the MENA region. And we're trying to keep up with those emerging trends. And like we talked about AI and what's happening in the world of manufacturing and world-class excellence and operational efficiency is all based around the partners that we do. So we offer a full-site solution, really, to serve the MENA region for growing packaging organizations. And we consult on that basis as well, so we can help with what that means for the future, how people can build profitability and efficiency through their process. But fundamentally, when you look at Interpapia, our key partner in paper trading, the key theme that runs through every one of our partners, all the equipment, all the projects, all the greenfield sites we work on, the key theme to serve the industry is how effective, how consistent, how sustainable, and how innovative the paper technology is within our world. Because consumer behavior is changing, especially in the Middle East, where we're seeing rapid growth, both across all sectors, really, across e-commerce, agricultural. We're seeing population growth as well. And as that consumer spend changes, as that consumer habit changes, we have to keep up with technology to meet that demand, but we have to keep up with that flexibility and adaptability as well. And as I said, common theme through all of that is how effective the paper industry is keeping up with that advancement in technology, what we can do differently. So just a little bit about Interpapia as well, a global paper trader, worldwide distribution of paper products. We organize, finance, transport paper for consumers across the world, really, but I focus on the Middle East region as well. So that takes me across all of the GCC countries and wider into North Africa as well, where we supply containerboard, corrugated-based papers, but also we do trade in everything you see in the exhibition here today. So it puts us really at the forefront of what's happening in paper mills across Europe, Asia, North America, and how that technological advancement within paper is affecting the consumer spend at the end of it as well. It does complement our portfolio of products quite well, because then we supply the equipment and the machines into the corrugated packaging industry, which can actually handle the latest innovations in paper as well. So yeah, companies all around, limited companies in New York, Singapore, worldwide sales offices, MENA region as myself, solid number of employees and solid financial basis. So really anything, if you would like to speak afterwards about what we can do, if you need support in that area, please let me know. And again, the common theme is that, and when we talk about paper and its innovation, especially in containerboard and in the corrugated section, having a global network of supply where we can look at what's happening in North America from an innovative point of view and how paper is affecting that, from virgin kraft liners and what we need to do to get solid agricultural packaging and effective packaging to travel long distances, what is happening in South America, Asia, Europe, and how even mills in the MENA region are now technologically advanced and moving forward with the times as well. So we've got a global sourcing network, and again, I think it puts us in a really good position to be able to speak about what's happening in the paper sector at this moment in time. But just to have a look at what's happening in containerboard and what's happening in the region as well. A lot of what we do is based out of Europe. Europe historically has been one of the centers of containerboard distribution globally, and is quite advanced. So coming out of Scandinavia, the historic virgin fiber papers, and then in Europe, a lot of the shift over the last 20 years has been to lightweighting, sustainable practices, fiber-based optimization, and mills are constantly under technological advancement to take on advance in paper technology. But exports really, from a 2021 point of view, 4 million tons exported out of Europe. 2022 and 2023 during the pandemic reduced to around 2 million tons. And 2024, we're expected to come back to where we were pre-pandemic levels as well. So, and the long term is that will continue to grow 5% year on year. So Europe still being a centre, there are mills converted from newsprint, from publishing, into containerboard. So it's one of the fastest growing sectors. And mills and papers, they need to differentiate to be able to take on the efficiency and operational effectiveness of how consumers are changing and habits are changing in this world. If you look just at the Middle East itself, so we do have recycled-based and virgin-based papers making up that 3.6 million tonnes that in 2024 will come out of Europe. And the Middle East itself, out of Europe, 437,000 tonnes of containerboard will come into the Middle East region. And that will continue to grow at 5%, 6% over the next 5 years, year on year, which really makes the Middle East one of the fastest growing regions and technologically advanced as well. So there's a lot of paper mills within the region, but we know that virgin fibre, recycled fibre, trying to get the raw material into paper mills is always a challenge within Central Asia, within Middle East and North Africa. So Europe's still got a part to play. Europe has still got a part to play in delivering the papers that will effectively allow this region to deliver globally on its promises and become an export leader in the world as well. And that moves us into what we talk about within the packaging sector as supply cycle thinking. And the common thread, again, the common theme that sits at the center of supply cycle thinking is the paper technology we live and breathe. So really, from an NCC or an OCC point of view, that waste paper collection, that is what is going to really drive innovation in paper. And when we say innovation in paper, it really has to then meet the demands of the corrugated industry, because everybody's looking for faster, more efficient, at a cheaper price. So manufacturing techniques, machines and equipment that we're involved in as well, that changes on a year-by-year basis. The technology is moving quite quick, so the paper industry has to keep up with that. I mean, it has to ensure that it can meet the demands of what modern manufacturing techniques are demanding. The manufacturing customers then, when we go into anything from FMCG or agriculture, they are demanding more efficient packaging. They're demanding faster process. They're demanding cheaper, because competitiveness across industry sectors, and as the UAE grows and as MENA grows, that competitiveness is becoming stronger and stronger. So they're looking for differentiation. They're looking for flexibility, adaptability, and going back through the supply cycle thinking, the paper industry's got to keep up with that as well, and to be able to take on that differentiation. If converters have got to change the way that they print, the way that they shape, the way that they innovate in packaging, the paper industry has got to ensure that we still maintain the right box strength, the packaging strength, and whatever goods we are protecting gets to its destination without any challenges. Moves into traders, but at the end of that supply cycle really is consumers, and that's the most important. I think in modern days, I think Apple, should we talk about Apple, changed that philosophy around 20 years ago and started to call it unboxing. The product that you purchase from Apple actually starts with the box. And I think if you look at Steve Jobs and the quotes and things like that, they put more innovation and more technology into the box than they did into the phone itself. Once that was manufactured, that was easy to manufacture, but the package was the easy, and it started to be labelled as unboxing. Now you see it all the time. We're going into the era of double-sided prints. We're going into the era of flowers being delivered through letterboxes, and the way that consumer spend and consumer habits are changing and what we desire. I think the package really sells a product. And for it to do that, if you look right the way back to the supply chain, it puts pressure on every point of that supply chain. And back to paper, they've got to find the right balance for efficiency, cost, but boxability. That impact when you see that package, it attracts you to the product within it. And a lot of the time, some of the boxes that you see and some of the packages you see nowadays are probably more attractive than the product in it as well. So really put the pressure on the paper industry. And again, once consumers, sustainability is a key thing that we've talked about for years now and keeps getting driven. And I think across UK, Europe, that sustainable practice is really quite advanced. I think in the MENA region, maybe North America, I think that they're reliant on heavy fibre-based papers and virgin kraft papers is still quite high. So there'll be a shift in this region to lightweight papers. There'll be a shift into new technology, and there'll be growth in automation as well. So the paper industry has to keep up with that. We have to keep up with that. And I think the growing population and how e-commerce and the fragmented markets here and the competitive markets, it will drive what we require as innovation. It will drive change within the industry. A lot of content in here. Apologize for that. Don't expect you to read it all. But really just have a look at the market. This is UAE based, and just from a growth perspective, really. So 2024 itself, from a revenue point of view, 408 million dirhams, and from a volume point of view, 432,000 tons of corrugated-based packaging will be manufactured within the UAE, and it's expected to grow 6%, 5% year on year up until 2030. So there is a change in face, and there's a lot of investment coming behind that growth. There's new packaging companies, there's new paper mills being built in the UAE. And whilst to talk about the UAE here, this goes for across the region as well. Population across Saudi Arabia is due to double probably in the next 5-10 years. The UAE is investing in a lot of infrastructure. And again, we as consumers are driving the change within our packaging industry. We want convenience, we want it quick, and we want that drive of growth. So we've got to keep up as an industry, and paper technology has got to keep up as an industry as well. There is a lot of key sectors that are driving that change. I mean, our online shopping behaviours, food and beverage industries, everything is easy. It's at the edge of an app at the moment. We can do whatever we want. We can order it in minutes, and it's delivered to our doorstep. And most of us ignore the fact that delivery to the doorstep is in a corrugated-based pack, and it normally gets ripped out and thrown out the bin as well. We've got to be conscious of that, and if that is the behaviour of us as consumers, then the paper industry's got to react to that as well, and create the same technology within paper for strength and innovation. Doesn't impact the environment solely as we as consumers do going forward. And again, it does say UAE at the top of this slide, but it goes across the MENA region really. As a packaging sector, I said like UK, Europe, North America are quite advanced within what they do. They're quite advanced over the last 30 years within the changes they've made. A lot of leading European machine manufacturers are delivering advanced technology to take lightweight fibers. As paper industry starts to move forward and starts to take fiber out, because we want to promote that sustainable initiative, they're quite advanced in doing that. So if you speak to machine manufacturers now, their top line will be about efficiency with low fiber. Their efficiency with low more material. Less is more, I think, is the strap line from a lot of people now. And that creates challenges to protect the goods that we want as consumers in the supply chain that we see and we desire. So we've got to try and take advantage of that. And in the UAE and in the Middle East region, it is in a period of growth. Again, population growth, consumer growth, lots of people coming into the region, and infrastructure is changing as well. So as a sector, you'll see this change, and the papers will change within that, the packaging will change within that, and our consumer habits will change as well. So again, we've got to be at the forefront of that technology moving forward. If we look really in the packaging sector, again, it goes across the MENA region, this. But if we look at what key drivers really to behaviour within the packaging industry, right bang in the middle there, it is a buyer's power. So there is a lot of competition in the packaging sector, in manufacturing within the UAE, which creates a really difficult competitive environment. So when you looked at the supply cycle from the previous slides, and you look at FMCG manufacturers, the Nestle's, the Unilevers of this world, they have the power because they can dictate to the packaging companies price levels, innovation, and things like this, which puts a lot of pressure on what we talk about in sustainability, efficiency, and cost as well, which then puts a lot of pressure back up the supply chain as well to paper and the innovation, and less is more from a fiber-based packaging point of view. So we've got to try and shift that in the industry. Our industry has to shift that, because the more it's a buyer's power, the less innovation is going to take place. Price is going to rule the world, and that stops development. That stops innovation. That stops the supply cycle being profitable for everyone involved. So buyer's power is really important, and we've got to try and change that moving forward. Competitive rivalry I've talked about, that is huge within the packaging sector in the UAE and Middle East region. So there's got to be a shift in that focus, and a shift in the way that we manufacture, and a shift in the way that we produce and present packaging into the Middle East region. And then a couple there, entry barriers are difficult, but substitutes as well. So there's been a heavy reliance on virgin fiber-based products within the UAE. It seems to be a minor mindset thing, but there has to be a shift into substitutes. Otherwise, if that doesn't take place and we lose that traction, there will be shift into flexible, wood-based packaging, plastic packaging and things like this, and the industry again will be effective. So we've got to protect the complete supply chain, starting with the consumer, us and our spending habits, right the way back through FMCG manufacturers to converters to the paper mills as well. We've got to protect our industry and help it grow because it is sustainable. It's a circular economy and it will stand the test of time and grow for the future moving forward. But really, to be different, paper mills, converters, they've got to have differentiation. We've got to have new technology. We've got to have innovative ways to separate ourselves in the competitive market, but also to the buyers as well to reduce that pressure on the industry. Flexibility is key. There's got to be speed, adaptability, and efficiency. We need less is more within our paper-based packaging, but we need it at lower cost, more higher efficiency. Having a look at that from an efficiency, flexibility, and differentiation points, when we're looking at an impact analysis on the corrugated board packaging market, we can see really that some of the drivers, the increase in popularity of packaged foods, that's our behaviour as well as consumers, and that increased popularity really over the medium to long term, sort of up to 2030, is driving that need for efficiency, that flexibility, that adaptability. Increased online shopping, chop and change. I think the UAE is probably one of the most fragmented markets when it comes to e-commerce and online shopping. There is a lot of options that we have, whether to get groceries or pharmacy or pet food and things like this. I think it's one of the most fragmented markets we have. So packaging companies have to be flexible. They have to be adaptable. More pressure on cost, more pressure on efficiency. So they have to find that saving somewhere else, which will occur within the paper industry and what we can do there to reduce our reliance on virgin-based fibres. And the availability of substitutes and environmental concerns. There's been a lot of pressure on the plastics industry over the last 10, 15 years. Not a lot of it true, I don't think. The single-use plastics have probably been eradicated. They probably were a number of years ago. So all the noise now about plastic is it is quite sustainable. So unless we try and continue to innovate and put pressure on our own industry to change within the paper world, we're going to be taken over. So differentiation has to take place, otherwise we're going to lose out because there's going to be a reliance on substitute packaging innovation. There's been a huge shift from the likes of Amazon over the last number of years. When I worked in the UK, Amazon, it was all corrugated packaging. Everything was corrugated packaging in a box, and deliveries would come to the doorstep with a small product inside with a big pack and something around. That's changed. That was consumer pressure that changed that. And since then, they've probably cut their corrugated packaging or their paper-based packaging reliance in half. And it starts to now come in plastics, and it starts to come in sustainable alternatives, should we say, as well. So they drive the need for that innovation. And if the plastic industry do continue to do that and are sustainable, they will overtake what I consider to be the best circular economy, which is paper-based packaging. So we need to protect that. We need to differentiate. We need to be flexible. And we need to be efficient as well in the paper industry. Again, a lot of content, but just building on some of them drivers. I've talked a lot about this and what is happening in the UAE especially. But really, it'll happen across the MENA region, especially Saudi Arabia, which is growing faster than the UAE market as well. But there's a lot of retail outlets. There's a lot of competition. And most of these are accessible online as well. So there is a shift from plastic bags to paper bags, boxes to plastic packaging. There is a dynamic shift and a dynamic change in the world we live in when it comes to some of the rapid growth industries like the paper-based package, like the packaged foods that we all rely on. Convenience is really important. So it puts a lot of pressure really on what we're doing in the industry and how we're approaching that in the industry to be able to be competitive, to be able to be innovative, and be able to move forward. And e-commerce, increase in online shopping. The e-commerce word is probably been the buzzword for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah, it's there. It's great. It is, and it's driven by the likes of Amazon that came out the US and spread across Europe. The UAE has a really different dynamic. The Middle East has a really different dynamic because it is so innovative. As I said, the apps on your phone, they are so fragmented. There's so many you can do, so many independents and things like this. So it creates another pressure within the UAE market for packaging companies to try and adapt to that as well. You don't get the normal shift and change in consumer behavior from a global corporation like Amazon or Apple the same way you do in the UAE, because there's a lot of competitors. They're all trying to find that niche, that visualization, that unboxing that would really attract you to their products and really attract you to buy their innovations. More e-commerce is expected to grow as well, so we are expecting to rely on more and more convenience as we move forward to 2030 and as we go. And there'll be another shift. So again, paper technology, paper industry really has to keep up with that shift. And the availability of substitutes and environmental concerns, I think it's been driven for many, many years now. We know about this. I think the paper mills, the paper industry has done an unbelievable job in adapting to that shift in requirements and taking advantage. I think the MENA region has a lot of work to do to continue to take up that innovation and that efficiency. But I think some of the new investments, some of the paper mills that are coming down, some of the collection points, and the way the infrastructure is handled, is really, really making strides forward for our industry to protect it going over the next 10 years. Really a couple of things, though, to maintain competitive in the shifting market environment. Container carton producers really need to modify their product lineup. They need to innovate, diversify, really pay attention to the change in the market dynamics. When that happens and when that shift occurs, we'll start to see a dynamic change in the way that paper is supplied into the region. Dynamic change in the way that consumers unbox and receive those packages at the end of the day. And from an environmental point of view, recycled papers have to be the future. I mean, they make up 70% of probably what we produce at the moment, but our reliance on virgin fibers is reducing on a daily basis. So if we start to generate the same impact, the same package, the same strength, with a focus on recycled paper, and do it without increasing production costs, we will win. But significantly within this region, it is an export market. Saudi Arabia is an export market. Egypt is an export market. Some of these packages, from an agricultural point of view, have to travel far distances, 40 days, cooled containers, going to Southeast Asia or North America. So we have to find a balance in the paper mills and in the paper industry to try and take advantage of that and not cause the restraint that it could do. And what have we seen in regards to trends from a packaging point of view? Well, this is what's happening now, or has been happening over the last 20 years, really. Sustainable packaging we've spoke about, the e-commerce growth we spoke about, innovation in design, that has happened, but I think it's happened in specific regions. I think maybe MENA region is still here. And as we move forward to what the upcoming trends are, there'll be a lot of reliance on smart packaging integration. If you go to some of the global packaging companies in UK and Europe, they will have innovation hubs. I know DS Smith, global provider to the corrugated packaging industry, big paper manufacturer. They have innovation hubs where you can go in and you can walk around the future of supermarkets. You can walk around the future of shopping. And it is RFID tags, it is barcode labels that are traceable. There is an innovative home kitchen within their hub where packaging will be scanned into the fridge freezer to track the sell-by dates. The pack will change colour if it gets closer to its sell-by date. Then when you throw it in the bin, it will be tracked by that RFID tag for sustainable practice. It will then be followed through to the circular economy, and the cycle will start again. So you can see that in action now, what the future of how we operate within the world is going to look like. But that pack will be able to tell you how to cook the food. It will be able to tell you what ingredients are in it. There will be new ways that pack will demonstrate to you. It will become a tool, the paper-based packaging, rather than just protecting the products inside it and making them sustain it. You'll be able to use it effectively going forward. So smart packaging integration is really where it's heading. We all know the QR codes. We all know this stuff. We can do a lot of innovative things with our phones now. You'll be able to do it from when you're walking around supermarkets. It will jump out at you. And as I said, the box, the pack, will be used as a tool in the future. Flexible packaging solutions is another one with the upcoming trend. I don't mean flexible as in plastics, but I mean product shapes and sizes. We talked about Amazon shipping fresh air historically. That's changing. Machine manufacturers are now doing right-to-fit pack sizes, which will take the product and fold the box around it. So you'll be specifically designed, adapted, flexible for the varying products as consumer habits change. And we are pushing that change as well. We really are. And there's a lot of diverse industries that are coming out of the region as well, which now the historical single product line where packaging was easy and innovation was simple, that's gone. We want change. We want the Coca-Cola bottle with our name on it. We want personalization. We want brand awareness. We want connection. So packaging will start to change, and businesses need to be flexible. Machine manufacturers need to be flexible to that. And the paper industry needs to be able to keep up with that change in demand as well. And then, really, as I said, regulatory compliance and certification. Going back to where the smart packaging, the RFID tags, it will be tracked. We will be monitored, I think. What we do with our waste, we are to an extent now, in certain aspects. But through the pack innovation, as I said, it'll be used as a tool. It'll be used as a tool for us to help us in what we do in life. But it'll also be used as a tool for maintenance, monitoring, seeing what happens in this circular economy that we live in as well. So, pharmaceuticals, food, increased focus on contamination prevention. So as we move to recycled fibers rather than virgin-based fibers, which are normally food-grade fibers, if we're going to drive that innovation for less is more, same pack strength, we've got to try and make sure it meets the standards for what we eat. And the biggest industry, I think, in the UAE for that is the pizza market, pizza boxes. And we're seeing that change now. And again, I think when people do order pizza, we do order convenience food, we don't really notice the pack and what goes into the manufacture of that box. And we don't even really take a care of whether it is contaminated. The paper mills do that for us. They have to innovate. They have to move forward with the materials that they use in the manufacture of that paper. So a lot of a shift, really. I'm not saying this will stop. Definitely won't stop. It will get better. And it will get better through what we're moving towards in paper manufacture. And this is a bit of the shift, really. E-commerce packaging, we've seen it a lot. The postal boxes, wheel and seal, book mailers, twist wrap mailers. Amazon's moved a lot to these now. And we're even starting from a printability point of view. The unboxing starts now. So I know there's companies around Europe that ship flowers. We're now shipping drinks. We're now shipping all sorts of things through the box that just goes right the way through your letterbox as well. So again, really difficult for manufacturers to keep up with. Really difficult for converters to keep up with due to the complexity of pack size as well. But as we move to sustainability, actually shipping these long distances to FMCG companies is much more efficient and much more effective and cost saving as well. So we'll see a change. And what we see as well, especially in the UAE, is a shift to food-based packaging, consumer packaging. There's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of companies coming up now that are moving towards this. And whilst we do see some of the solid board containers down here, where we'll get convenience food in, there's a large shift to microflute corrugated packaging, which is going to replace some of the single-use plastic packaging that you see as well. So the development of machinery is changing. There's a lot of influence from Asia on that basis. The machines are cheap, they're quick, they're efficient, and we can produce consumer packaging to meet the growing demand, and it's sustainable. And if we get that right, going back to the supply cycle thinking, we can really, really change the way we manage sustainability and cost moving forward as consumers. But just a little bit on paper then and its position in the corrugated facility. And this is really, really common to this region. And what we're after as packaging manufacturers or even machine suppliers is consistent paper performance. And that really goes against what is commonly known here as it's not paper weight. The 120, 140, 160 grams per square meter is irrelevant because there is such a diverse amount of fiber within the world in different regions. The collection methods are different regions as well. That a 120 gram or a 140 gram paper is not the same performance in Asia that it is in South America. It just isn't. So generic historical paper weight basis for strength, protectiveness, efficiency is not the way to go. It has to be consistent paper and consistent performance. That's what we'll look. And that consistency then generates into the innovation we can provide and an optimized box performance and what we've talked about. Why waste-based specifications fail? When we do the analysis from mills globally through the trading company that we operate with at the moment, we see huge swings. Really, papers that should normally be the same from different mills can vary by 40% in regards to their strength capabilities, which, think of the end consumer, think of the FMCG manufacturer, think of the unboxing ceremony that needs to be had. If we've got that swing in variable strength, then the product's not protected. Whether they're electrical goods or pharmaceutical goods, if the product's not protected and we can't rely on that protection, then there's a huge problem in the industry and will fail, and other industries will take over. An impact on BCT, really, which is, again, box compression test. The strength, we can see variation up to 50% as well in regards to BCT tests. So that's the weight that a box gets put under before it collapses. So we're trying to find innovative ways around this. But really, when we're trying to be competitive in the market, when we're putting pressure on paper mills, we can't use weight as a basis for selling. We can't use weight as a basis for innovation. We have to try and do performance-paced packaging. It really has to be. Is it fit for purpose? Can we look at the whole supply cycle? Where is that consumer pack going to end up? Where is it back in the recycling cycle? And then work our way back through the supply cycle to make sure that we consistently deliver on our promises. So performance-based specification for packs that work. And what's that mean from a consistency point of view? When we talk about paper, when we talk about what's happening, we've got it. So within my company and the partner Interpapier that's based out of Hamburg, we have close supplier partnerships. We don't cast our nets far and wide. We work with mills. We work with mills to develop. We work with mills to innovate so that we can supply that consistent performance. And we're confident in that consistent performance in paper-based packaging through our supply chain, through our supply cycle. We're taking care of that. So really close supplier partnerships. And if there is a problem, if there is an issue, we address it immediately. But again, we're feeding back into that supply cycle about what habits are changing within markets and what we have to do from a paper-based point of view to move forward to 2030. Consistently strong papers, historically coming out of Europe or even now Asia, North America, consistently strong papers is key. And it's happening in this region as well. There are some fantastic, really significant, innovative paper mills within the region that are continuing to invest, continuing to find ways to deliver the same consistently strong paper across our industry. Controlled tolerances and predictable standards as well. Really, that's what we want. When we go to corrugate that, when we actually go to make the sheet board, we've got to have consistent engineering, so well-trained individuals. We haven't talked a lot about that as well across the whole supply cycle, but we've got to innovate through colleges, through schools, get good people into the industry. Investments to protect strength. As I said, my company works with a lot of global OEMs to supply packaging equipment into this region, and there is continual investment in producing machines that can deal with lightweight papers, less fiber, protect the strength of the pack that we design. So really efficient, driven, innovative capability. People and operating methods, that's it, common best practice. And the same would be said for conversion when we convert the pack. I think the only thing missing out of there, once we convert, we have to find the flexible, differentiated, adaptable pack and innovative package that we talk about. So the policy really that should be adapted by our industry, it really should be systematic action for pack strength and reliability, common practice in the facility, and consistency for our customers. Go back to the supply cycle thinking as well. We should look at every pinch point, every step along our supply chain to improve, to innovate, to make it more efficient so that we do meet those sustainability targets and we do meet consumer change and consumer behaviors. And that consistency comes from the global resources that we have. So within the GCC, there's a good consistent supply now of waste-based flute-in, test liner, so a semi-craft or craft top board. Paper mills are fantastically developing at a rapid pace and they're putting new investments in all the time. And lead times are short, which makes it great for this consumer spend, this consumer change that's happening within our region. Historically, virgin craft liner coming out of North America and semi-chemical fluting, which helps with wet strength, which helps with long distances from a frozen pack point of view. Asia's got a lot of really innovative products coming through the pipeline, and Europe historically, Scandinavia and mainland Europe, a lot of white top test liners, things like this. So really, there is a whole global resource available to us within our industry to be able to meet a lot of what's happening within our market. So I think the Middle East region is perfectly positioned. It's at the start. Well, it's not at the start. It's probably really, really far along in its journey. But there is such a long way to go and such an exciting way to go as well in regards to what we see and what we move forward with. And just to summarize, really, what are the key points for future success? Again, in our converting process, tonnage is what we build into the converting process. So paper mills provide us with that paper, but less is more. We do need less. We need less tonnage in, less fiber-based packaging. So the advancements in technology, paper grammages are getting lower, 60 gram, 40 gram. I was in China 3 weeks ago, and a corrugated company there was running a 40 gram paper. Never seen it before. It was super impressive. So the packs that we get, that is consistently on average the MENA region, which the average GSM is probably 100, 110. That is nearly a third of the weight running in China. So a third of the fiber optimization running in China at the moment. It was incredible. So we are changing. There is advancements going on all over the world. Less tonnage, more square meter. It's like walking into any supermarket and buying less ingredients, but getting more food out the door. It's the same thing. We have to innovate in that well and produce the packs that are innovative going forward. So fiber optimization we've talked about, increase the yield of the paper purchased. As globally sustainability hits and governments try and change the world, we've got to try and keep up with that. So paper mills are under increasing pressure to use less virgin fiber and find new ways of recycling. So that will take place. Performance packaging is the only way. Same strength, same consistency, same protective, less fiber. We've got to get it out the product to be able to maintain the future economy growth. Recycled papers for cost optimization, circular economy, but important that recycled papers give us the same performance, both in printability, unboxing, visualization, moving forward, just to maintain that circular economy. And as I've said repeatedly, supply cycle thinking. As an industry, we shouldn't be trying to compete and win against the supply chain. We shouldn't be putting pressure on paper mills and cost pressure and do this. We should be working with them to innovate. And even FMCG customers, we're working with them to innovate. That's the philosophy from a corrugated background, really. If we optimize the supply chain, we make wins all over. We reduce inventory. We reduce trucks on the road. We increase operation efficiency, we reduce waste, and we maintain and hold on to that circular economy and manage it effectively. But we can only do that together as a supply chain. Innovation in every point, I just talked about it, but innovation in every point across that supply chain, right the way from recycling all the way back to consumers. We've got to try and innovate, even with the way we handle products, talk about the future and the emerging trends of RFIDs and things like this. But that will be monitored. That's the innovation to manage along every point of the supply cycle. All the way back through FMCG, they've got to find different ways of packaging goods that create the impact and visualization that we want, but still protect the product that we've got as well. Continued drive for optimization and efficiency. Cost is king. It really is. If businesses are going to stay alive, if they're going to stay consistent, the optimization and efficiency is driven by cost, and paper is the common thread that runs through that. Of a standard corrugated box plant, 70% of the cost base will be paper. That is a huge, huge figure, a huge investment for any paper-based packaging manufacturer. So that optimization and efficiency, working with the supply chain, is key for success. Tons in, square meters out, very important. Less tons in, more square meters out. Less is more. And really, automation and process control is key. There's a big drive for this in Saudi Arabia at the moment, so I think we are positioned. We work a lot with global OEMs and the machines and equipment, software ERP providers, things like this. AI is starting to come in as well. But there's a big drive in the MENA region for this. Historically, labor's been quite cheap. Historically, it's been easy to manufacture. But automation kicks on and creates another challenge. It starts to increase skill sets. It starts to drive innovation in different ways. And the next generation of youngsters as well have that flexibility and adaptability in the way they approach the way they work. So that will become hugely exciting for our industry, hugely exciting for the supply chain, and hopefully we can start to take those innovations, take the new ideas, and develop it going forward. As I said, just to recap, JL Group is a business based in Dubai, the UAE. We partner with global OEMs. We have a number of partners within primarily the corrugated packaging sector, but we do the print and packaging sectors as well. Anything from software ERP providers to large-scale print and packaging manufacturing equipment, materials handling equipment. We have a full portfolio of partners where we can support businesses to achieve some of the things I've talked about today. At the core of that, I said it's the common thread that runs through. I'm sales director for Interpapia. They're a Hamburg-based organization, international paper trading organization. So at its core, containerboard for the corrugated industry, but also newsprint, folding boxboard, wood-free papers, you name it as well. So